Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel. I almost totally forgot what I opened my videos with there for a second because it's been a sabbatical in 3/4 from me, hasn't it? I apologise to those of you that have been relying on me for Chelsea news, Chelsea updates, or just any kind of base level entertainment, really, because I've not posted anything for a couple of months. Took a break for the World Cup, which was lovely, and then I went back to England, which was fantastic. A couple of things not so great, but saw the family for Christmas. My sister, I'm about to become an uncle. That's also very exciting. Any moment now. But as well as that, I managed to get myself to Stamford Bridge. For Chelsea's 2-0 win against Bournemouth. But before we talk about that game, we're going to talk Enzo Fernandez news today as well, because this morning, jet lag got me awake at 5 in the morning, which equates to about 9 p.m. UK time yesterday. The news is breaking that Enzo Fernandez could be close to agreeing terms with Chelsea Football Club. What a signing that'll be. We'll talk about that too. Before we get into anything though, I want to point you guys into the direction of the link in the description for last week's episode of Last Fan Standing, where the discussion was about Arsenal, Gabriel Jesus' injury. Since then, we've seen Eddie Nketiah score a wonderful goal. Arsenal come from behind to beat West Ham 3-1. Can Arsenal still win the league?
Arsenal, weirdly, haven't had an awful World Cup. They played nearly half as many as few minutes as the City players.
Probably picked up the worst injury out of everyone.
What, Gabriel Jesus? Yeah. What do you think
in terms of the importance of the team and what he means to them? Because whilst I think, yes, he didn't score all their goals, he still had a healthy amount of goals. He didn't score all their goals.
Unfortunately, I think they can. They just look like the engine that Chelsea wish we were at this moment in time, but I say that in a pessimistic kind of tone. Before I do go on to talk about Chelsea, link to the Last Fan Standing episode is in the description down below. I think Chelsea are quite a way off where Arsenal are at the moment, but what I saw when I was at Stamford Bridge for the game against Bournemouth at the weekend, no 6 things we learned today, but I want to talk about that game first before we get into the news. Chelsea were good against Bournemouth. I think what impressed me the most was that there was a lot of negativity in the build-up to this game. A lot of people, even in the pub beforehand, I had a couple of beers with a few of the boys that I used to go to Chelsea with week in, week out. We were all talking, and I think there is just an underlying negativity at the moment about the way we've been playing, the results. When you look at the Premier League table, we've got Newcastle 9 points ahead of us. You've also got Fulham right next to us in the table, and it's looking as though Champions League football is about as far away from feasibility in our minds as we could possibly ask for. But what Chelsea did against Bournemouth was come back strong, and I think we looked very good defensively. I thought Mason Mount and Kai Havertz, both goal scorers, I thought both of those players were in desperate need of a big game. Kai Havertz has been in need of a good run for a while. I think he played very well. Mason Mount as well came into criticism for his performance against the USA for England, lost his place in the team to Phil Foden. And then a lot of people have kind of used this to once again scapegoat any kind of agenda against Mason Mount as a footballer overall. Mount scores a wonderful goal. Chelsea dominate against Bournemouth. Kepa, very good in goal as well. And I think one of the things that I really saw in that game, being in the stadium for the first time in 3 years, not only was the atmosphere not that great at Stamford Bridge, I'm not going to lie to you, for those of you that don't ever get to go to Chelsea games or have never been and wonder what the atmosphere is like, I wouldn't say it was the best. It kind of had that just after Christmas kind of feeling that post-Christmas games sometimes do have, but late kickoff, one day after Boxing Day, I thought it would have been a bit better. But other than that, Reece James is still above everybody else in terms of quality as a footballer on the field. Reece's injury, for me, is one of the bigger talking points from the game, as well as the fact we won 2-0. But Reece going off injured, I'm concerned about Reece in terms of longevity, in terms of where his career could stumble as a result of the reoccurrence of said injuries. You've got Wesley Fofana also coming back behind closed doors friendly. You can say a lot about Chelsea and injuries over the years when it comes to pointless friendlies. You've got Ruben Loftus-Cheek with a pointless injury in the US, but behind closed doors friendlies when there's a World Cup sandwiching the Premier League season into two halves, you can't blame Graham Potter or anybody for putting Wesley Fofana out there and giving him minutes, because if it wasn't a behind closed doors friendly against Brentford, which we won, by the way, by I think 5-1, Kai Havertz scoring a hat-trick, you've got to give Fofana minutes here. And I think with players like Fofana and James, where we're looking at young talent, we're looking at absolutely world-class ability, especially when we're talking about Reece James here, these things are going to happen. And I just worry that Reece James's career is going to be plagued by these niggles, these injuries. But the one thing I think about Reece in the 52 minutes that we saw of him, absolutely brilliant. The way that Chelsea's shape is controlled by Reece's availability, both in a progressive attacking sense and in a defensive presence sense on that right-hand side. Chelsea are just such a better team when Reece James plays, and that is totally down to just how intelligent, smart and brilliant he is as a footballer. Other than that, I thought Thiago Silva was great. I think Chelsea controlled the game well. I think Sterling looked very good when Reece James was over on that right-hand side with him in the first half. I think there's a sound test going on in the club next door because they've got a load of New Year's parties going on right now. So if there's a big bass here, I do apologise for that. But Enzo Fernandez is the next piece of news that we're going to talk about here today. We are still waiting for even close to a here we go right now on this one, but Chelsea are reportedly getting closer and closer to agreeing a deal with Benfica for Enzo Fernandez. Now, if you were living under a rock during the World Cup, then you might not know just how good Enzo Fernandez is. 21 years old, plays in the Portuguese league for Benfica, instrumental in Argentina's monumental World Cup success, where we saw Lionel Messi lift the trophy with Argentina becoming world champions. Enzo Fernandez, about as dynamic, aggressive, and just all over the field in different areas of the game. I've not seen a 21-year-old burst onto the scene the way that this guy has in the last year or so, both for Benfica and with the standout performances for Argentina in the World Cup. This guy's the real deal. This guy absolutely dominates the play in the middle. Passing accuracy, fantastic. Winning the ball back with tenacity, fantastic. Controlling the game, getting forward, scoring, also brilliant. Enzo Fernandez is a phenomenal footballer. And the way that this could look at the moment is that Chelsea could be bringing this guy in even as soon as January, which is 2 days away. By the time you guys watch this video, there may even be more updates on Enzo Fernandez to Chelsea. And I think this music is dogging me off, but we're going to try and finish this video right here, right now, and hope that it stops. N'Golo Kante could be about to sign a new one-year deal. We've got Jorginho being linked with moves away to Newcastle. Newcastle apparently have come out and said, not interested. In my ideal world, I've always said this, Chelsea need to try and sign, I think, one minimum world-class central midfielder, maybe even two, and keep N'Golo Kante. And Enzo Fernandez is the absolute mould of everything that Chelsea need. He's young. It is a revolutionary signing in the way that we know that Chelsea have needed to transition from the Jorginho, Kante, yes, Kovacic still absolutely brilliant. Kovacic will be staying at the club for sure. Chelsea need to sign young, brilliant midfielders. And I think that's something we've known now for a couple of seasons. And Enzo Fernandez, 127 million euros is the reported fee. And that is his release clause at Benfica, which Benfica have said is the only way they're going to accept a deal for Enzo Fernandez this January or next summer. So it's looking more and more likely. It is being reported quite heavily in the past 12 hours or so. The music is getting loud. This is my first video back, so apologies if my delivery's been a bit rusty. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'm going to be back now with daily videos again here on the channel. So make sure you are subscribed so that you don't miss anything. And if you could, hit the like button. It feels good to be back. The music has kind of tailed this one off short. But yeah, Enzo Fernandez to Chelsea. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments down below. Come on, you Blues.